Welcome into Star Wars News Net Live. This feels like just a massive week of Star Wars, but I mean, next week's going to be 10 times bigger than anything that we're talking about this week. And so I don't know why I'm so excited. Maybe it's just because Star Wars is that incredible, but it's also Thursday night, 10 o'clock, my favorite time of the week. I'm joined by Jay and Luke. We are going to be talking Acolyte predictions, final predictions before the show begins. I asked everyone kind of come up with one or two. I have two predictions ready to go. I am really excited to share those with you. I kind of shared some of my other predictions for the show in the last couple of weeks. So I stayed away from those completely. And I just went with two other things that I think is going to happen in season one. And so we're going to be talking about that. Came Film Festival. Oh my gosh, I can't even say anything. George Lucas got an honorary award. Had some interesting things to say. He's at this amazing point where he's, old enough and his legacy is purely established. He's like, I'm just going to go say whatever I feel like, And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then a couple other things. Then we're going to get into some Return of the Jedi, like looking back on that. Are we ready? Luke, Jay, are we ready for some Star Wars?
Yes. Let's get into it. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's absolutely do it. Izzy T, appreciate you. Enjoy your summer break.
Most consistent viewer ever.
Most consistent. Izzy T, like us, she and some of her friends made me a cookie cake for my birthday.
Wow.
I'm a teacher, and so that was like really sweet. Dream team students right there. We'll miss them in my new school next year. But guys, this is kind of a somber note that I want to hit on. So Ray Stevenson would have turned 60 this last weekend. And I just want to I've been rewatching. I rewatched Ahsoka last week. Like, I know that's like really quickly, like a really quick rewatch, but I rewatched it last week, partly because one, I saw, it's like the anniversary of, his passing, and I knew his birthday was coming up. And part of me was like, I just want to go watch Baylan Skoll and see Ray's last work. And also because I hadn't rewatched Ahsoka since the show came out. And so I was like, okay, it's been not a year, but it's been a while. It's been several months. Like, let's go back and look at this. And let me just put Ray up there real quick, because that has to be in Disney Star Wars. Like, we'll ignore all the prequels and the originals, but just Disney Star Wars. I can't think of many performances that top what Ray Stevenson did. And we could spend the entire show today just talking about Ray's lasting legacy in Star Wars and what that's going to look like. But I just wanted to take a brief moment and just mention just how impactful it was for me, like a year later almost, and it still hits. And I felt like the show aged really well. Like, I really did, just rewatching it. Obviously, I noticed some clunkier things as you're going along, but there are points of that show that will never not be incredible, and every single one of those moments involve Ray Stevenson. And so it was just kind of sad this weekend, thinking about that and thinking about how we're never going to see, Ray Stevenson at another Star Wars con or these events where the fans are going to be able to shower him with the praise that he deserves. And I was getting a little like emotional, like watching some of these scenes, but I know you guys have not been weren't expecting me to talk about that, so I'm not going to put you on the spot and be like, deliver this profound notes on, Ray's legacy in the show Ahsoka. But I am curious, have you guys gone back and watched any Ahsoka since the show came out? Or are you maybe waiting a little bit longer till we get back into some of the Mandoverse stuff? Because I know we're kind of taking a break from some of that for a while.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't rewatched it yet, but I'm really looking forward to my rewatch. And of course, I can easily say that and agree with you that Ray Stevenson gave one of the best performances that we've seen in Disney Star Wars.
Yes.
He absolutely destroyed that role. It was so believable, all the emotion that he conveyed. He was making me feel things. And his work with the saber, his acting skills are just unparalleled, really, in that show. So I have so much respect for him. I need to go back and familiarize myself with his previous works, because I really wasn't super familiar with him before he came to our franchise. So his performance here makes me want to go watch a lot more of his stuff.
Speaking of Ahsoka's show, is that Rosario Dawson behind you?
Which way is it? Yes, I do have my picture with. Yes,
is that Rosario? Rosario Dawson back there?
Here we have my picture with Rosario Dawson. She was amazing to me. You only get like 10 seconds to get your picture with her, and in that 10 seconds, she ruffles up my fiance's shoulders of her cosplay, and she's like, "I love this," and she put a lot of personality, and Hayden did, into the just really quick personal interaction you get with her. So she's awesome. I am such a big fan of her.
That's awesome. Jay, have you spent any time going back and watching Ahsoka since, the show came out, or just anything on that in general before we get going?
No, I haven't actually had a chance to get back to Ahsoka. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that the villains in that series are super crucial. I'm really excited to go back and watch it, knowing more about like Thrawn's plans and about Diana Lee Inosanto's character. I'm like, my mind is kind of blanking out on like right now. But like especially
Morgan Elsbeth.
Yes, Morgan Elsbeth. Thank you so much, Luke. Especially after watching Tales of the Empire, I'm really excited to go back into that and just like check out more about like those characters again.
Yes, Ahsoka's obviously going to play a large role in the future, and we'll see what ends up being done with Balin's character. We know Ahsoka season 2 is in the works. We know that the Mandoverse like culmination movie with Filoni is going to happen. We know the Mando Grogu movie is in the play. There's so many things in that little section of the timeline that is really going to explode over the next 3 or 4 years. Now, that's down the line. That's something way in the future.
Also, before we move on, I did have something to say. There's a comic adaptation of Ahsoka coming out in August. So I think
the same person doing those comics as the one who's done
the Mandalorian comic adaptation. Yeah, so it's gonna
and the Obi-Wan.
Not the Obi-Wan one.
I don't know about that.
It's the same writer and artist behind the Mandalorian comic adaptation.
Just gotta take my deep breath.
Yeah,
like. I did like quite a few reviews for those Mandalorian comic adaptations. I was pretty harsh on them. So
they are rough.
They are very rough.
I didn't know that. I haven't read those, but I'm kind of looking forward to the Ahsoka one. I don't know.
Good luck, Luke. Good luck. That's all I'm going to say. Good luck. So let's talk. So Acolyte next week. This time next week, we're going to be breaking down the first 2 episodes of the Acolyte.
Yes.
And with any luck, I will be able to share about my theater experience for the Acolyte. Ooh. I got into like the queue for one of the showings here in Orlando, and so my plan is to get there early so I can hopefully get in line and get all that going. I really want to see this on the big screen. So we each have a couple of predictions for the show. We can talk about any final things that we wanted to do. But before we get right into that, I did want to talk about, there was that brief little 2-minute snippet of Dave Filoni and Leslye Headland having like the little conversation today that they released on the Acolyte, on Star Wars and different themes that exist. And she was like, I wish I could have seen this whole conversation instead of just the 2-minute deal that they edited for this. I think it would make a really insightful, talk. And it means something that Dave Filoni has been out there so much and in the marketing for this show. Obviously, he's the chief creative producer now, but I agree with some people from our Newsnet team that I believe that Lucasfilm is really proud of what they have here. I think they believe that this show is really good and that they trust in the creatives behind it. They trust in the narrative. They trust in the visuals. They trust in the choreography. And that's why we've seen the marketing for this show feel like old school Lucasfilm. We're seeing all the people in charge. Like, we're seeing them everywhere. This cast is everywhere. And I want to know just from you guys, your thoughts on that brief little conversation. And if you agree that Lucasfilm seems like they feel like they have something up their sleeve with this one. I'll throw it to you first, Jay.
Yeah, I actually covered a report on this one for our website.
That's right.
And actually, going through that and analyzing every single word that the two said, it was really cool just seeing how passionate even Leslye Headland is. I mean, we all know that Filoni knows practically almost every single line.
He's George Lucas's apprentice.
Right. And so to see Leslye also too, just talking about even how nervous she was There's a quote that I honed in on for my report, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
she was more nervous doing the emotional stuff than she was doing the fight choreography and the special effects. And to me,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
that absolutely is great to hear, because it means that she really cares about the story more than anything. And if you're making a TV show like that, yeah, of course, story has to be the center and the most important thing that you need to focus on.
And when you think about the great fights in Star Wars, I mean, Star Wars is known for some amazing duels, but all of them
Sure.
are absolutely woven together in intense emotions, intense themes, intense feelings. Like
Yeah.
the duel, we think of the duel of the fates and everything that meant. You go to the battle of the heroes. Think about even the first lightsaber battle we ever have, Obi-Wan and Vader, and the pent-up tension that's there, and Obi-Wan's sacrifice to Luke and Vader, all the Rey and Ben, conflict. There is every single great battle. I'm just mentioning, movies, but if you look at Ahsoka, we talked about Ahsoka, like the history behind Anakin and Ahsoka doing their little duel in the world between worlds. Like, you have to nail the story, you have to nail those themes, so that the choreography is going to be really cool. Like, no matter what, you're probably going to be like, oh, that's a cool lightsaber battle. But drawing the line between a good lightsaber fight and a good action sequence to making it a memorable moment, that's entirely different. So I'm glad you pointed that out, Jay, because if she can nail that part of the story, and based on what we've seen of the action, and the choreography is going to be really good, if she can nail that part and get the story right and get the emotions behind it correct, we have something that is maybe going to be something that surprises a lot of people moving forward.
Sure.
Luke, what about you?
Yeah, I watched that earlier today, just that little 2-minute clip, and I can agree. Like, I want to see this whole conversation because I love Filoni. I love his thoughts, even back on like Mandalorian galleries, when he would just pipe up and like give a little, here's just, I guess, my thoughts, and it would be like the most profound thing. And so to hear him get to just chop it up with Leslye Headland, who I'm really not super familiar with before the Acolyte, I've become such a big fan of hers because she seems like she's just saying all the right things. Like, she's very respectful of Star Wars. She wants to do this so well. Seems like they're going to be really proud of it. Like, they're, marketing this a lot, which they had to.
But it feels different.
They did.
It feels different than other marketing campaigns.
It does. Yes.
There's like from John Williams giving a violins, like, solo like version of the Force theme to, these little sit downs, but like talking with each member of the cast about, their connection to Star Wars. I think they just really are doing, maybe it's over the top. I don't care, but it feels like classic Lucasfilm here.
And I would rather see, like another one of these with more new content rather than like another new TV spot, even though those are great. I love seeing this, like, the actors loving their job, that they came to work to put on these costumes and do these scenes, and they like loved it. And it went so well for them. That makes me warm inside. I love
all
that.
These beautiful people right here.
Yes.
And so
Junus.
Something, especially you, Kelnaka, especially
yeah,
you.
I was gonna say him in the middle.
Last thing I wanted to hit on before we get into our predictions was I read a quote about, and we put this out on Newsnet and we broke this down a little bit. Kathleen Kennedy and Leslye Headland, she said something very interesting. Leslye said how when she first kind of presented her show and her idea to Kathleen said, "This is a great Star Wars show. Like, I really love this. This is a great Star Wars show. Now I need you to make this a Leslye Headland show."
I love that quote.
Headland, I think, has clearly a deep love for Star Wars and a deep respect for what Star Wars means and the history behind it. But I love the fact that she got that okay, I can make this Star Wars, but now I'm going to turn this and make it my own and my own project. And I think that's what Star Wars needs, is creatives that are not so obsessed with like, oh, I'm playing with my action figures in the toy box and I will have to stay within these parameters right here, but more of, okay, maybe I am still playing with my action figures toy box, but now we're gonna go play on the swing set for a little bit. Like we're gonna go over here, and maybe I'm going to launch them off the trampoline or something. Like just something that is their own, something unique to each person.
Yeah.
It's like when you're a kid and you're playing with your toys and you're doing your own little thing, and then your friend comes over and he grabs your action figure and does something else with your action figure, and you're like, no, he doesn't do that. But in his world, it's incredible, and it's okay for us to have these different versions. So I'm super excited for the show because I think that Leslye has a deep respect for Star Wars, but is also going to make this unique and make it her own. And I think it's going to be better off because of it. And that leads us into prediction time. We have just a few days here before the show premieres. And obviously, some of these predictions could get canned by next Tuesday. Or we could see, depending on what your predictions are, these could last a little bit longer along the way. I have two predictions ready to share. I've already talked about how I think like the May, the twin stuff that's been floated around, like even Amon Listenberg talked about playing two different characters. I do think there's going to be a little bit of a duality there. I don't know if it's two separate people. It seems like that's what it's going to be. I'm okay no matter what with that. But I have two predictions. Do you guys want me to share a prediction first, or do we have a volunteer for a prediction to share our first one? Luke, Jay, I know you both got it. What do we want?
I say
I think
you
maybe you should give one of yours first.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got two of them. I think you should give one.
Let's start off on a happy note. This guy, Yord, my good man, Yord, who I feel like is described by Leslye, that Jecki, who, first of all, these character posters are fantastic. But Jecki Yon, this one right here, she's a Padawan, but she is like much more competent than Yord is. And like they talk about in the show how she's kind of like, hey, you need to pick it up. And you know what's going to be wild is when Jecki is really annoyed by Yord throughout the show, but ultimately comes to like have a deep respect, a deep friendship for Yord, just for him to get killed off in this season by whoever the Acolyte is, with a red lightsaber. So this guy right here, he's going to annoy us a little bit. He's going to be funny. He's going to just with his incompetence and how he just seems a little bit behind the eight ball. But you know what, guys? We're going to come to love Yord. And as we come to love Yord, just like Jecki is going to love Yord, then he's going to die. And we're going to feel terrible for hating him so much in the first few or being annoyed with him. And then we're going to be like, you know what? He's a good guy that got taken from us a little too soon. He's going to die. I just feel like if we're building into a multiple season show, they're not killing Indara right away. Master Soul's not going to die. I think this up-and-coming Padawan not going to die. I don't think that's going to happen in a season one. I think they're trying to build something here. Not saying this is going to be like a 5-season show, but if they have plans for a season 2, I feel like they're promoting like Lee Jong-jae and so much, and Carrie-Anne Moss's character. I think those are people that are going to stick around. They want Jecki. This is an up-and-coming Padawan. It makes perfect sense for the Jedi Knight, who's a little incompetent, that I feel like is going to grow on everyone. Doesn't seem like the most consequential character to keep around. He's going to die. Kelnaka, you were my second vote, so I hope. Now, I'm not cheering for Yor to die. I'm not cheering for Jedi to fall in battle.
How dare
I'm telling you right now, that guy's going to die. He's dead. He's already dead in my eyes. So response, what do you think about Yord? His likelihood of dying? Is he going to bother us and then we're going to like him and then he die again? What's going to happen?
I have a interesting and similar prediction actually. And Tyler, you're probably not gonna like this.
Do not. If you say it, you're off. You're done. You're done. We are not. Do not even speak that into existence, Jay.
Let's go, Jay. Say it, Jay.
You already know, and I mean the fact that you already know, I think solidifies that it's actually gonna happen. But I feel like Vanessa Rowe is gonna die. Vanessa Rowe she's gonna get killed off. I have a good feeling that she actually will.
Look at him.
So, all right, you tell me why.
For one thing, I think she has a lot of legacy behind her.
Okay.
And to be honest,
fair.
like a lot of these characters in the Disney Star Wars era,
Mhm.
if they have like a long legacy, we tend not to see them like go beyond that, unfortunately. And I think it would kind of like set the precedence too to actually see like a beloved fan favorites actually make the heroic sacrifice and
You got a
actually
sick
like
smile on your face for someone who says beloved fan favorite. You know what I'm talking about?
but like I think that having her make a big like this could be like a really cool send off. I actually
Yeah.
do think like in a positive light, it could be like a really cool way to actually cement the character's legacy because she's
Okay.
already like such a big character in the High Republic.
In the
I think
books,
to
yeah.
have the character continue on and like just to continue on would be kind of like pointless if there's not like an actual end to the character.
Okay. So all of that makes perfectly good sense. And so I'm going to ignore
But
that. But I'm going to
ready for
ignore
the
all of
but.
that to say a few things. I'm just
Yep.
kidding. No, that does make sense. Star Wars has a history of doing this, and it would make sense for a supporting character that is mostly thrown in for book fans, and it does make sense to have someone from the books like be a tie-in for us. But once we get acclimated to this timeline, like all of the the average viewers start getting acclimated and adjusted to this new time period, it makes sense that we no longer need that character to be around.
Right,
I can say that. However,
Here it is.
a couple of things. One, are we really Leslye Headland has a deep respect for Star Wars. She has a deep respect for the lore behind everything. And obviously this takes place much later than the High Republic books. But do they really want Vernestra's entire character arc to be completed before phase 3 is done publishing wise? And that way it's like, we read the last book next in 2025 for phase 3. And that kind of is like really good, but it bookends. We already know how her character ends up. It's a little bit weird already because we know she survives everything going on.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like, do they really want to just put a bow on this character's entire ending before we see everything that happened to her beforehand? I don't know. Like, it's a book, so Star Wars can go. It's not nearly as deep as like a show, or as important. Honestly, it's not nearly as important for for Disney and everything. So that's one thing. Second thing, I feel like Vernestra is going to serve, just based off of what Leslye has said, I think she's going to have a small role to play in season 1. I think she will get an expanded role as the show goes on. I think that they are going to dip their toes in with her, and she's going to have a few moments in the beginning where they show her as this revered Jedi. And as the season goes on, I think she's going to be the Yoda from Attack of the Clones that maybe comes in at the end and is just, this is why she is one of the most powerful, Jedi in the universe. Kind of like Yoda comes in Attack of the Clones against Dooku, and you're like, oh boy, the Grandmaster's about to show up. And obviously Yoda, Yaddle. Yeah, and like Yoda and Yaddle are around, but they aren't going to be those people that come in, I think, and save the day. I think Vernestra might be that person that comes in and does that. And I don't think if you're building this person up as the big revered, she needs to have her moment, I think, in the show.
Yeah.
And that moment does not end in her death. Down the line, I think that makes sense of a direction that we can go in with her. Right now, I am wondering if that's not necessarily the place that we're going to get to. I could see her death in the cult. But a lot of this is up in the air because we don't know if this show is going to get a second season. A lot of it depends on, how it's, accepted and the viewership and what Disney's direction is going forward because of, obviously after COVID and then the strikes, like everything is changing rapidly and we're seeing a lot of changes financially. And we know this got a $180 million budget. So it has a substantial budget. They need to see substantial returns on this. I hope Vernestra does not bite it. I obviously don't. Luke, you're the deciding vote here. Jay is voting
Deciding
Vernestra
vote.
dies. I'm saying she's going to live, not necessarily because I disagree with any of Jay's logic, but just because of my own sanity. I cannot have that happen.
Okay, on this specific topic, I think I'm gonna lean toward she's not going to die in season 1. Maybe even on screen. She started out as a book character. Maybe they will bookend her character with a novel about her last act or something. I don't know.
Like down the line.
Yeah, like in 2026 or
Okay.
27 or something,
That could be interesting. All of this, a lot of what we're talking about too, I think we're all very optimistic, I think, people for the most part when it comes to Star Wars. Like we always want Star Wars to succeed. And so we're already thinking along the lines of like, not in season 1, not in season 1. But in all reality, this thing could come out and for whatever reason, no one responds or gravitates to it. And they're like, all right, one and done. And we're out. I hope that's not the case. I hope we get more. But Luke, give me your first prediction for the show. MB Wilson, he said, I just posted this in the cantina. I hope Vern survives. MB Wilson, if Vern did not survive, I'm gonna like tweet out a link. Like we're all meeting up for drinks, like raising our glasses for Vern. We'll do it even if for everyone that's like even on different continents. Some of us are in different countries. Jay's not even in the continental US. Like we'll just set up a time. We're all at the same time. And we're just all going to lift our glasses and our light whips up for Vern. But that's not going to happen. We don't have to worry about having any sort of like candlelit service for her yet because she's going to be just fine. Luke.
You sure about that?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure.
Speak it into existence.
Go ahead, Luke.
I was kind of cooking this one up just off of the fact that we only have one confirmed season right now. So my just prediction was Master Soul is going to be our last survivor of this kind of crew of Jedi that we've been introduced to. None of them are introduced. None of them are in the prequels. None of them are, they're all new. So I feel like it's going to be a little taste of Rogue One with Jedi. I feel like we're gonna be introduced to these people and say goodbye to them all in this show, however long it is. And I think he's going to be the last remaining one, and then he will get some kind of final say as the Acolyte unfortunately defeats him last. He's like the most powerful one that is in this group, so I think he's going to stand the longest in a duel or group duel.
So you're saying
he's going to bite it last.
So you're saying like you're not counting Vern, you're talking about like the main people from the trailer, like Soul, Yord, Jecki. Or Jecki. I gotta get that name right. You're about like Jecki, Kelnaka, like Master Indara, like all of those characters.
Yeah, I think he's gonna survive the longest out of them, but I still think he's gonna.
My thoughts exactly.
Be the final one alive.
MB Wilson said, surely just based on casting, she say like you got to think when you're married to the person in charge of the show that you might have decent job security maybe, or there's a little bit of security there. You would hope so, or you hope your relationship is strong enough to withstand you getting killed. Good to see you, Manslayer, as always.
Manslayer.
And so Luke, I'm curious why you think this is going to go down Rogue One style for the most part. Can you elaborate on that just a minute?
Again, it's a cast of brand new people, and it's kind of the precedent that I've saw set. And this Acolyte character wielding the red saber seems, we haven't seen a ton of footage of them, but they have this incredibly dark aura, very like just scary, just very scary looking mask with the like teeth almost. So I just think this person's going to be a very vicious foe and is going
to be.
I think they're going
to. It can't be a clown. It can't be Jar Jar under there, or it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. I think they're going to be powerful enough that they will be able to defeat all the characters we see, whether by a large margin or not. I think they're going to have to be powerful enough to take them out.
Well, if they're not, then if everyone survives, I think they've done a poor job, or they should strike so much fear in the heart of everyone that it makes a lot of sense because they in the trailers they've shown they've made it feel like you said this aura, this powerful, just with like the force, pushing all the Jedi off their feet, the saber throws. Like, I mean, they've set this up as this is someone to be reckoned with, not someone to be trifled with, someone to be reckoned with, and this really intense character. And if they aren't able to take out at least one person along the way that we see on screen, not just these deaths that are happening, off screen, I think they might be missing something here.
Yeah, and I was going to say the secret of the Sith, the secret of the Sith seems to be kept because in the Phantom Menace, they're surprised that they're denying that Darth Maul is a Sith because they think they're wiped out. So I think that this person who is a Sith is going to wipe out anyone who witnesses them or their power. And then it's just kind of my thoughts.
I disagree.
What kind of pushback do you have?
I disagree a little bit, Jay, but I'll let you go to. I'll go with the Jay.
The Jedi have covered a lot of stuff up, so I'm not saying that, but go on.
Jay, I'll let you go first with that, though.
No, I think we're probably of the same train of thought, which is that I think like even we covered it maybe like a week or two back, but I think even Leslye Headland did acknowledge that even though the Sith are kind of gone by the time of the Phantom Menace, gone in quotes, Yoda and enough people on the council were there to at least like be familiar with the Sith, and for them to like actually like recognize, okay, maybe that this is someone who is part of that organization. So
and Qui-Gon knew it right away.
Yeah,
like as soon as he fought Maul, he said, "That's a Sith Lord."
Even Headland brought up that's the example Headland brought up, which is that Qui-Gon knew who Darth Maul was right away. So knowledge of the Sith is prominent, and it is there. But I think that the council probably did have its fair share of deniers. So I think that's probably where you and I were thinking,
right. So I think they're gonna follow a blueprint from Phantom Menace here, where Qui-Gon is literally coming back to the council saying, "I fought this person. They are a Sith Lord," and they're like, "The Sith have, been extinct like forever, like all of this stuff." And some of them are saying that, and then some of like they are denying the evidence in front of their eyes, like someone they've offered a seat to sit on the council before, like this master in front of them is telling them this, and they're saying, oh, can't possibly be true. But enough of the Sith still exists in the minds of those who have been around or who are around to see the signs when they're in front of them. And so think about in real life, just in general too, how many smart people do we know in our lives that become so fixated? And we're all guilty of this to some belief. Like I think of like sports fandoms where you believe in your team so much that when someone comes to you with like specific flaws that exist in your favorite player or your favorite team or whatever, favorite movies, anything, you're so passionate about it. You even fixate and you ignore those fatal flaws. You ignore those things that exist. And I think the Jedi are guilty of this too, that they are going to ignore some signs that are very clear in front of them. And they're going to find any way possible to explain this without admitting the Sith have returned or are still around, because that makes my second prediction, which is the Jedi are going to cover this up. I think absolutely. I think the legacy of Master Soul and Master Endara is going to be one of fear, is going to be one of failure. And as great as these Jedi are going to be, I think Master Soul, he might end up as like the Qui-Gon of this era for us at the beginning of this show. But I think if he lives, depending on who is alive at the end of this, he might not live. Whoever is alive, I think they will represent why the Jedi ultimately fall the way they do, because they're going to sweep this under the rug. They're going to, maybe they kill this Acolyte, or they kill this, whoever this Sith person is, and they're like, that's it. That's the end of this. And we all know it's not. And they're going to use that hubris and pride that gets into the thick of things with the Jedi, as we see later on. And that's what's going to take place. And I think there are going to be key people throughout the galaxy that are going to notice this, and the festering of anti-Jedi sentiment is only going to continue to grow. And I think we're going to see the beginning of that here, where there's going to be some people fed up with what the Jedi are doing, and they see that the Jedi are covering things up, and it's like, we are now on a mission to make sure the Jedi are no more. And that means it's not going to happen today, but it's going to happen at some point, and it's all because of the Sith stirring this up. So my second prediction is that the Jedi are going to ultimately cover up a large portion of what's going on, but they're not going to do a very good job. It's going to be really messy.
Yeah.
But like, we'll see what happens. Like, what do you got? Like, Jay kind of hit on that. Luke kind of hit on that. Do you guys have another prediction to take us into some more Acolyte? I know, Jay, you said you had something with us for these witches. Do you want to get into anything with the witches?
Yeah, I mean, these characters in this group is probably like the one group I'm most interested in, and it's the one that I feel like we haven't seen hardly any of. I think that a lot of people have been speculating that this could be a continuation of the path from the High Republic books, the Path of the Open Hand. Mm-hmm. I'm actually with that. And I actually want to go even further and think that this organization might be the one to bring back, in some way, the Nameless from the High Republic books and comics.
Ooh.
For those who actually aren't familiar with High Republic, the Nameless are like a group of they're like these creatures that attack Force users and basically drain their life away from them. And they're like animalistic creatures, gray and all that. So I think that
pretty gnarly.
Yeah, no, I don't really have an example that I can pull out from my book comic collection behind me, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I think that
okay,
we might actually see the Nameless in the Acolyte, and I think that would be really cool.
Here's my problem with that.
That'd be huge.
I love the idea of the Nameless in Star Wars, on the screen, and I love the idea of the Path of the Open Hand. I don't think they're going to do anything that closely tied with the books. I think they're gonna let the books be the book. They're gonna let the books be the books. Let that group of people finish out their story. And then at some point, maybe we could see the Nameless enter into a screen adaptation. It would be insane. I just don't think it makes sense if we're talking about the Sith being the focal point here, this enemy, but the Nameless wouldn't discriminate against the Sith or the Jedi. They, in terms of attacking Force users. Also, it would be a pretty dramatic shift to go see the Path of the Open Hands go from, hating the Force to seemingly being these witches and using the Force in some way. That's obviously it's been a few hundred years since phase 2 of the High Republic at this point. So, that shift could happen, but it seems interesting that the dogma would go from, the Force shall be free. We're not going to engage in any Force activity to now we're a coven of witches that is going to wreak havoc on people using the Force. So I just think they're going to let the books be the books. Focus on the Sith, focus on the Jedi, focus on this. I think if you introduce the Nameless and everything else, I think the story is going to be a bit too much. There's going to be too many threads that you're trying to, because if you're going to introduce the Nameless, that has to be something really pivotal to the story, something really big. It can't just be a subtle, one-off, this Jedi is husked by a Nameless. And you're going to get into this whole thing with the Path, because that's also a lot of history you have to cover for fans who are familiar, while you're still trying to get them used to the Sith Acolyte and all of this other stuff. If that does happen, though, I mean, we've talked a lot, Jay, about how much we want some of these High Republic stories to ultimately become, whether it be in animation or a short series. I would love that, but it just seems to be a little too far-fetched for me right now, given that the witches are these Force users, and it looks like they're manipulating the Force, maybe working in tandem with the Sith to harm the Jedi, and the Path, were so against the Force at the time. The Nameless is a whole other thing, and seems like a great time to say that Temptation of the Force review should drop tomorrow on Star Wars Newsnet. And I wrote 8 pages and cut it down, obviously, for the review. This is my second favorite High Republic book. I'm just saying it. It's my second favorite High Republic book. It's a top 4 favorite Star Wars book of all time. Make sure you read it. It's amazing. Tessa Gratton, you're the best. All that being said, Luke, thoughts on the Nameless in Acolyte real quick before we move on?
I think that would be awesome because I think they are just a very, very cool addition to Star Wars. I've loved every scene that you get of them in the books. I kind of agree. It would be like almost distracting if they were in the show, but it would be cool. It feels like they've got their own thing set up with possession and the witches and the acolyte, Sith acolyte, and then the Jedi. And there's like these 3 kind of working around. So the Nameless feel like it would be a 4th one added in there, kind of cluttering it up. But it'd be cool if they chose to show it on the screen. I'd be like, let's go. I'd be the number 1 fan of it. But yeah, I don't think I see it personally, but it's cool.
Next week, The Acolyte. It's going to be incredible. I'm so excited for this show. I have not been this excited for a show in a minute. And Ahsoka is my favorite character in Star Wars, but I am way more excited for the show than I am for the Ahsoka. It's like we're doing something outside of the saga, outside of any time frame that we've ever seen on screen before. And that just is really exciting. And we don't have time to talk about things that what George Lucas talked about with it came. He said a quote when he got his award, the Cannes Film Festival, and I'm going to sit down. We're going to have like a little mini show about this just because I thought it was a lot to unpack. But when it comes to the Acolyte, I think this is interesting. George said that big studios just want something that's like something they've seen because they don't have the imagination to see something that isn't there. And obviously, we do not have time to talk about the future of cinema tonight. But I will say, while this is going to feel like Star Wars and we've seen a lot of Star Wars, there's hope for me in here that this is the studios taking a chance on something and being proud of what they have done. And if we can see success from this, could lead to future stories in the future taking place outside of the saga and expanding what we know about Star Wars. But do you guys have any final thoughts on the Acolyte before we talk about Return of the Jedi for a little bit and the 40+ year anniversary of Return of the Jedi? I have a fun little stuff we're going to do with this. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I can absolutely say that since that investor call where they announced 10 projects that were coming back in 2020, the Acolyte has been I think
it's 2019.
Yeah, 2019. So it's been almost 5 years. The Acolyte has been at the top of my list of something that has just been extremely interesting to me before I knew anything about what it was. And then once we get, all these High Republic books to really flesh out what this is going to be, it has just risen to my number 1 project. So I've been looking forward to this show for years. I can't wait to get my eyes on this. It's been my favorite thing to look forward to for years.
Oh, the High Republic is the best. Jay?
Well, to be honest, I haven't been too convinced in regards to what they've shown in the clips and stuff like that. So I've been kind of just like you guys though. I have been excited for this. Everything that they've said about it, all of the stuff that the actors have been saying about it. It's just that the actual footage itself, I wasn't particularly too grabbed just yet. So
Why
with
is that
being said, I think it has to be the action. They hyped up the choreography a lot. But
it looks awesome. Sorry.
I don't see. I come from a background of Donnie Yen and Ip Man and those kind of movies. And it's so when I feel like I have a very high standard when it comes to action and kung fu and just action movies in general. So for me, when I saw the footage, I'm it's okay, in my opinion. So I'm not super hyped up just yet because again, from what I've seen, hasn't been the most impressive thing. that being said, though, like before that, like everything else, yes, I agree. You know, like the special effects, like you know, what the actors have been saying, what the directors have been saying, it is really, really exciting. And like you guys have been saying, like it's the High Republic and it's outside of the main saga.
Right.
So like I'm still a little reserved. I'm still
I
just
hope
like being like at that point where it's like I hope it's good, but I'm keeping my expectations like down just in case.
I hope it. You know, sometimes action, everything, it can be clunkier in like little spots.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
for
true.
different people. So hopefully, like when the show is released and you're able to see the whole product, like from
Yeah,
start to finish, like that could, you know, obviously add like a new element to it. Hopefully,
Sure.
but it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how the fandom, aside from the losers in the fandom, respond to the show. I'll say it. There's a lot of losers out there in the fandom.
Are they even in the fandom?
Right. And so outside of those people, I'm excited to like see what the discourse is, because, you know, like every show, like there's going to be flaws with it. There's going to be things to dissect, but as a whole, is it going to be well received? Is it going to be something that I don't believe in bringing the Star Wars fandom together anymore, because I don't think that's possible, but at least bring the fandom to a point where there's like a general excitement and, you know, for everything. I think that would be really nice to see. But we'll see. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
We're going to obviously be breaking it down every week for the next couple of months, but let's quickly talk. Well, quickly, I got all night about Return of the Jedi. Luke, I know this is your favorite Star Wars film.
Yes.
Jay, I know this is up there for you.
Right.
So what I have done, I've put a few images together of just some different characters, moments in Return of the Jedi that I feel like we should talk about. And I'm not necessarily going to go in order of like most important character to least important character in this show or in this movie. But we're going to talk just a mix of like legacy, what happened from these things. First, I want to talk about Boba Fett. Return of the Jedi. Boba Fett dies like a wuss. Like he literally is flying off screen and he's screaming, and he lands and he just falls into the Sarlacc pit. And I want to know from two people who both really like Boba Fett, and I know, Jay, I'm pretty sure you're a pretty big Boba guy, right?
Yeah, I like him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like he had the lore for 20
Yeah.
years. This man was Boba Fett, this badass, incredible character. And obviously in Empire, he is seen very, you know, foreboding. He's very intimidating, but he dies like a wuss in Return of the Jedi. And I know George is like on record saying that if he knew Boba was going to take off the way he did, he probably wouldn't have had him die the way he did. But at the same time, how is it possible that this guy became the legend that he is in the fandom? He gets his own show like 40 years later after dying one of the most, you know, atrocious deaths in Star Wars history. Jay, you have the floor.
Oh man, don't give me the floor after that, dude. Yeah, it is funny. I mean, it's one of those things that I feel like just in Star Wars, though, we've just come to accept that it doesn't matter how cool or how awesome a character may look. You know, you can have like a character like just have this awesome look and awesome appeal, and like, you know, like the costume designers and like the actors behind them are like fantastic. It doesn't matter if the script calls them to die, they're just gonna die.
It's not that he died. It's that it's just funny
the manner in which he died.
When you think about Boba Fett,
yes, that's true.
If I mention Boba Fett to you, or like Star Wars fans in general, I feel like the first few things that come in people's minds is like best bounty hunter in the galaxy, like vicious, cutthroat, like tough. But the last image we have of him in a Star Wars, as a Star Wars movie, as an adult, not baby Boba, you know, or little Boba we get in Attack of the Clones, is of him screaming, going head first into Jabba's sail barge, and then just falling back into the Sarlacc pit.
I'll say
it's just funny. And the action figures are great. And I'd say this in jest because I love Boba Fett, and I really like the Book of Boba Fett with Tamora Morrison. I'd say it because I think it is just funny how like like MB Wilson says, the action figures or the
comics.
made up
I wanna bring up
lore
the
that you can
comics.
do, comics, all
Yeah.
of those things can really enrich a character that actually has a very unceremonious ending. Luke, your thoughts on Boba?
I think we're maybe in the generation that is too young to have like idolized him, because like, you know,
That's true.
I've
100%.
I've heard a lot of, you know, when the show was coming out, you hear Jon Favreau talk about and other people in his generation just talk about how it was so cool how like his introduction to Star Wars was like in a parade before the movie even came out.
Yes.
And so I mean,
cool.
think about just that today. Like if there's some new character in a parade that you'd be like, who is this? They don't even have a Wikipedia page. Like, so I mean, it's just insane that he got introduced that way to Star Wars. And I don't know why, it's really random, but I love the line of Boba Fett, where? And just accidentally kills the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy. It's
Imagine today, social media the way it is. They introduce Boba Fett today, and they in the parade, and it's this massive thing. It's going viral everywhere.
Who
And
is this guy?
And he dies like that. Social media, like it would just be a bad place. It would be a bad place. It would be funny, but it would be a bad place. Let's go with something a little bit more serious here. My favorite villain ever, Palpatine. So we obviously, this was the Ian McDiarmid coming out party for Star Wars. He is a legend. If I had to meet one like actor in Star Wars, all of Star Wars that's ever been in the saga that's still alive, it would be Ian McDiarmid. He is my favorite. Like I love this guy. I think Palpatine is the best. Nothing beats the voice. That he is amazing in this movie. What are your guys' thoughts on his portrayal of Palpatine in Return of the Jedi? Because I think he does a brilliant job, and I think the direction of the movie paints him as this, you know, incredible figure that is to be feared above all else. And I felt like when I watched it for the first time, one of the main things that they did was not give him a lightsaber. George didn't give him a lightsaber in this movie, and I thought that made him so much more compelling. Because you have these two guys fighting with a lightsaber. I'm like, he doesn't even have a weapon. Like, he's just chilling over there, and he doesn't. Like, that's how powerful he is. Like, what's the
And then
catch?
he just bursts
And
off
then he's
lightning.
doing. I'm like,
Yeah.
my mind was blown as a kid. So, what are your guys' thoughts, Luke? We'll go you first this time. Palpatine.
Ian McDiarmid did an incredible job of conveying that this character is just unequivocally evil. This character has no redeeming qualities. This is like. This is just a bad guy. You don't have to question like where the blurred lines are, where the gray area is, and I think there's a lot of beauty in that. There's someone that you need to just defeat. Like it's evil embodied, and so I just have so much respect for Ian McDiarmid to stick around for so long and to continue to give us great performances in the prequels as well.
So sorry when you said stick around. I don't know why. I just mean it's like thanks for staying alive, buddy. Like I really appreciate that. like I know what you mean. Like you mean stick around like, in the fandom. Like we're here.
Absolutely.
But, like,
and he comes back for Rise of Skywalker and kills it there too. He's just
he voiced Palpatine for Bad Batch. You know this year. Like pretty impressive.
So he's so compelling, and I love the guy.
I love the point you made about sometimes it's nice having a villain that's irredeemable, that is just pure evil and like embodies pure evil. And that's why I hope they never do a young Palpatine show. Because like it's, you know, like I don't think anyone is born evil. Like I don't think that's like something that is real. And so I don't ever want to see a young Palpatine show where they try to humanize him in a way that makes him like, oh, relatable. And you feel bad, like something happens and you're like, oh, like Palpatine, no. Like I think that would be a disservice to the character. There's plenty of other characters in Star Wars for that. Jay, your thoughts on Ian McDiarmid's performance as Palpatine in Return?
I think this is probably like his best version of the character. I think this is like the best performance that he ever did. What always stood out for me in terms of this version of the Emperor was his attitude. Right. It's the way he mocks and jests
His line
especially
delivery.
especially towards like Luke, you know, where he goes, "Oh, I'm afraid that the shield would be
Yes.
quite operational." You know, when your friends are, yeah, yeah. It's stuff like that, or like it's him laughing. My favorite line of the entire film is Luke telling the Emperor, in a few moments from now, I'll be dead, and you along with me. And then the Emperor giving that comical like bad guy laugh, like, you know, that he's so good at. And then it's the attitude of the Emperor and him knowing that, you know, like he in his mind knows that he's gonna be victorious. Of course he isn't, but it's again that fun and that just
The
insanity,
arrogance of it
the
all,
arrogance
too.
and the hubris. Yes, it's all of that intermixed into this one performance, and I think that's awesome to see for this performance.
He's so good. It's just, or even that part where he's like, "You, like your father, are now mine." Like just stuff like that. Like he just nails.
Also,
And
if his first best performance is Return, his second best performance would be Celebration, where he says, "Roll it again."
so, quick fun story on when he said that. Obviously, Palpatine returning is controversial. Like people have lots of different opinions on that. I will say, reflecting on that, I was like, is this really the best thing for Star Wars? Like that was me a few weeks after that happened. But in that moment when that happened, I was with, sadly, I FaceTimed Luke after it happened because he wasn't hanging out with me and some of my friends. But like we were watching it, the live stream of Celebration, and then the laugh comes on at the end, and then the camera just goes to Palpatine, you know, Ian McDermott. Sorry, like he's not actually the evil Emperor. And the camera like it goes to him, and he just is standing there, and he's trying to like say something, but the crowd is going so nuts that he's actually, you know, on stage right now. And then when he just goes, "Roll it again," like it's just, oh my gosh, like we were screaming, and my friend is screaming, "He's the ultimate evil. I've been saying he's the ultimate evil." Like, you know, and so it's just incredible. And so let's go ahead and, you know, we're seeing some talk about this in the chat. Let's just go ahead and talk about Luke and Vader and the dynamics between the two.
Yeah.
And in cinema history, I feel like that gets thrown out a lot. Like this is the greatest thing in this person's career, or this is one of the best moments in cinematic history. But if we're being honest, given the social impact that Star Wars has had over 50, like almost 50 years now, and the importance of this storyline, it is safe to say this might be the most impactful, you know, relationship, dynamic, and theme that we've seen in throughout cinema and like history, because the idea of Vader for this entire, you know, run, embodying the worst bad guy imaginable. I mean, he's the most recognizable 50 years later. He's the most recognizable movie villain of all time. Like every single person knows who Darth Vader is. But if I said Anakin, not every person may know who Anakin is, you know, like most people do, but like everyone knows who Darth Vader is. And to have that person brought back, not because, and I'm sorry for you chose with it, not because of some prophecy, not because of this idea that he needs to, you know, be there for the people of the galaxy, not because he had a change of heart, but no, to be brought back because of the love that he has for his son, but also because his son, Luke, had the idea that that's my father, he's committed all of these things, but I'm going to love the man that I know is still in there. And he that just honestly, just that belief. And I think as we get older, it's easy to become cynical. It's easy to like give up on the things that we believed as kids. And when you think about A New Hope, like Luke's belief that there was something greater for him out there. He learns his father was a Jedi and just dreams of being a Jedi and dreams of living up to his father's name, to finding out his father is actually the worst person in the universe. And then to believe, despite all of that, that the man that he used to be is still there, and to be willing to sacrifice himself and everything he believes in for that, some might say is foolish and ridiculous, but ultimately, given what happens there, it's beautiful to see like played out.
Yeah.
And then of course we have the knowledge now of the prequels and seeing the full story, and it just expands everything that decision means. But it really is profound to say and to think about, because there truly is nothing that quite matches that in cinema. There really isn't. Like, and so Jay, I want to throw this to you. Like, I think everyone that's a Star Wars fan has a personal connection to that moment when Vader just looks at the Emperor. And I'm going to ignore the like remastered part where he says no, because I'm just going to say I think that makes it worse. I think just when he looks at the Emperor, looks at his son, he's like, can't have that anymore, and he just takes the Emperor and tosses him. Like, that's just incredible. So I want to get your reaction. Like, what are your thoughts on that overarching, theme of family, hope, belief, redemption, all of it?
Yeah, no, I mean that's that's like the key part of the entire series, and it all builds up to that part. I've always, for me, like, I think that for me the most key part, though, just on a personal note, is the scene where Luke throws away his lightsaber. It's a scene where he defies everything. He literally just stands up to the Emperor and says, no, like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna be part of this anymore. And I will be a Jedi like my father before me. And like, it, to me, like, even that line where it's like, I will be a Jedi like my father before me. He's not a Jedi right now. Luke is seeing what he could be. And, he's seeing like the man he knows that his father is. And that is also like a really beautiful moment. But like, just for me personally, like, him standing up to that own personal evil and, to the Emperor like that so defiantly, that has always been like a source of inspiration to, like, whatever, like, personal problems, whatever issues I might be dealing with, like, that has always been like a source of inspiration where, like, I just going to say, like, no, enough is enough. I'm gonna say defiantly to the face of evil or to my own personal demons that I am gonna be a better person. And to me, that has always been like, just, and that's what makes Return of the Jedi such a revered and beautiful movie.
And I hate it when people say that, well, it doesn't actually redeem Anakin because you can't ever make up for him. I mean, he killed kids and did all of these things, but it's not about redeeming him in the sense of he's slate is wiped clean and he's now like, the scales are balanced. That's not what that means. Him being redeemed is about understanding that this is someone who was fallen, someone who was gone, and then was brought back into the light where he understood all of those things, but like was brought back to love again, to learn how to have hope again. And
just because someone has done some bad things in the past doesn't mean that they can't be a better person for the future.
Exactly. And that's obviously, this is about as extreme as example as it gets, but it is Star Wars. So Luke, I'll give you the final word on the Luke and Vader dynamic from this movie.
Yeah, it's I mean, like you guys have both said, like, it stands the test of time. It's still something we're talking about 50 years later. And I can completely agree with you, Jay, that like there's been tough seasons of life that I've gone through where it's one of the things that you have to look for inspiration to get you through is like Luke looking at the most evil thing in the world or in the galaxy and deciding like, I'm not gonna play by your rules. And like, even if I win by your rules, it's losing. I need to like stand for what I know is right. And I'm going to play by, just the better moral code. And so I think that resonates with me a ton. Luke Skywalker's my favorite character probably. And I think it's just something that once you watch, you can't really like forget about it.
Right.
No matter what age you are, especially, I feel like I was going to say, I feel like every kid should be mandated to watch Star Wars.
They should. You know what I'm talking about? We are going to make this happen. I will say, too, in that moment, like when Luke screams never at Vader and the music swells up and the score just, that moment just hits when, and he ultimately takes, Vader to his, down to the ground and everything. Oh, my goodness. A couple of lighthearted things here. Can we talk about this guy for a moment? Like,
Akbar.
I have a couple of problems with this guy.
Boy.
Prince Lee Char, future King Lee Char from the Clone Wars, King
Water
Lee Char.
Wars.
Water Wars legend himself. Admiral Akbar was tasked with protecting this man, protecting him for the citizens of Mon Cala. And I come to find out recently enough that Prince Lee Char kind of died like a loser and had a horrible ending, which was undeserved for his brilliant character. And I want to know where Admiral Akbar was, because you know what I'm saying? What I'm talking about here is this guy is supposed to be in charge of protecting the greatest king and the greatest royalty in the known galaxy, and instead is gallivanting off on his, Star Cruiser years later, fighting in this rebellion where he doesn't even know what he's doing. He's flying right into a trap, about loses his entire cruiser because he's unable to successfully make sure that the shield is down. And to me, it is unacceptable. Lee Char was a misunderstood prodigy that, was before his time. He's not appreciated like he should be, and I blame Admiral Akbar, then Captain Akbar, directly for his death. I would like a formal apology from the Admiral Akbar stands of the world for this. And I want to know from you guys, what are your thoughts on the great Admiral that we are introduced to?
Okay, I feel like I need to say, Jay, just for some context, so I'm going through the Marvel mainline run of Luke, Han, and Leia.
Yeah.
And I just got to the point where Lee Char is brought up again, and I texted it to Tyler. I was like, "It's your boy." Oh no! So I feel like that's kind of prompted tonight's rant. I feel like it's fresh on his mind.
I'll be honest. I have no idea what Tyler is actually just going on about.
You don't know who Lee Char is?
I don't remember. I don't remember, dude. And I'll be fair. I'll be totally honest here. I'm not reading the mainline Star Wars Marvel comics,
and that's okay. It's from a four
Clone Wars, right?
It's from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's slowly coming back to me. Yeah. But the thing is, I know it's from the Clone Wars and all that. But the thing is, I haven't actually gone back to revisit the Clone Wars, ever since I watched it as a kid.
Wow.
Page 38.
Page 38.
Lee Char.
He's pulling out the receipts.
Just so we know, Mon Cala's young prince is forced to grow up fast when his father, King Kalina, is murdered, and separatists goad Mon Cala's Quarren into battling their Mon Calamari neighbors, ending generations of peace. With the help of Captain Akbar, Prince Lee Char proves brave in battle and leads his people to victory over Rift Tamsin and his armies. He then takes the throne and seeks to heal the divisions between the people on his planet. His abilities are leadership, armed and unarmed combat, and he is only 5'7", so short king.
I'm taller than him then. Wasn't there a hinted was there a hinted romance between him and Ahsoka in the Clone Wars?
I think there was. I haven't watched it in a while. I think there was some mutual admiration. There was mutual admiration. Who wouldn't have admiration for the young prince? Anyway, I'm sorry. Any chance I can get to plug Prince Lee Char's name into the Star Wars world, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna jump on it. Next character, we should talk about Lando. We should talk about Lando for a minute, because Lando has one of the most interesting arcs and journeys in Star Wars. He goes from the guy we see in Empire who betrays them,
everyone,
and just joins the rebellion, seemingly out of
really.
Right. and joins the rebellion seemingly because of his, I guess, guilt over what happened.
Right.
But when we see him again in Return of the Jedi, he's a full-fledged general in the rebellion. And it's like, how did we get from there to there? And I don't know how much you guys are keeping up with the current comics for the mainline, some of the mainline runs, but they're having like, there's the trials of Lando Calrissian. They're kind of building up Lando's arc and talking about that time period between Empire and Return, where he goes from, being this new person into gaining the trust of the rebellion. But I'm curious for you guys, what you think of Lando's jump from episode 5 to episode 6, and like, are you guys Billy D fans here for Lando's character? I feel like some people like love Lando, but then there's others that honestly are just pretty indifferent about the character in general.
His jump from 5 to 6 is like one of the best things ever. I mean, I feel like you really don't need to explain too much in terms of some of these characters. Just best left unsaid, because it's also very funny too. And even like Han Solo goes when he first sees Lando on like the ship, he's like, a general, look at you and all that, and he's like, like egging him on and all that. But I really like his Billy D. Williams, and his performances are just so endearing, and he's so charming and everything, and like the way like even he's like talking on the Millennium Falcon. He's great. I loved him in this movie. Yeah,
absolutely. Give me 10% of the confidence that Lando Calrissian has, and I will take over the world. I swear. Just give me 10% of that confidence. Like, this man is awesome. Lando is fantastic. Luke,
are you not
the
Tyler? Are you not the Riz master?
I have like there's a
you have 0 Riz.
There was a student of mine who, in my yearbook, he signed it after he wrote me, like, because I buy a yearbook and the kids love to sign yearbooks. So they like all want to sign Mr. Bradshaw yearbook, right? And he wrote from blank, I won't say his name, the Rizzler. The Rizzler King. Not Riz King. He was the Rizzler King. The Rizzler.
Riz.
Like, he is W Rizzler King on this whole block. Like, it was I mean, I would argue I have some Riz girlfriend, over there. She's, I have something going for me there. Maybe that probably just more that probably just more fell like into like my lap there, more than anything. Like, let's just call it luck, but it's whatever. But Luke, tell us about your thoughts on Lando and how much Riz do you think Lando has, I guess, then, if that's where we're going now.
His Riz is unmatched in Star Wars. Look at the way he just greets. He brushes Han aside and is like, "Who do we have here?
What do we have?"
As time has gone on, I have become such a increasingly exponentially more of a big fan of Lando. Just watching all the movies again on May the 4th, doing like a movie rerun, I was like, I forgot how much I just love how animated he is with how Chewie's choking him, and he does such a funny like job of like trying to like squeeze the words out.
Right.
Yeah.
And he goes from that to leading the Rebel fleet, like the attack squadron here, like in Return of the Jedi. He's leading the attack on the Death Star, and ultimately is one of the people who helps, destroy it, like in the final run. And it's just an incredible, like, arc for him.
He's not a huge player in The Rise of Skywalker, but I love that they brought him back, and he's got some scenes there. Give Leia my love. He's still so sultry and so smooth. I love how smooth he is with just his line delivery, and he's funny. Also, I love his comedy.
Lando's salute, like in that picture, I do that. I do
that.
Oh, in, like
100%.
Like and,
he's so cool. He's the coolest.
I do that.
I saw that in Return of the Jedi. I'm like, I'm gonna do that more often. Like,
I do that.
I'll see you later. Yeah.
Let's talk about Warwick for a minute and Ewoks in general. Obviously, this was probably some of the biggest cause of like pushback at the time, and some of the big discord, I guess, that existed. This was the Jar Jar discourse before Jar Jar was a thing. I would assume. I personally this is maybe it's just because I grew up, and watched Star Wars when I was a kid and didn't go watch it again when I was an adult, or I wasn't watching it, as it came out. 5-year-old Tyler loved the Ewoks. 27-year-old Tyler loves Ewoks. I would love to have like a Ewok village nearby to go hang out because they throw the best ragers. I would have loved to go to an Ewok rager. These people are insane. Like, they literally use the helmets and the heads of their defeated enemies to throw a party. They're playing drums on the helmets of the fallen stormtroopers. They are described in some of the books as the just crazy, tenacious beings. It's funny, if you ever read The Princess and the Scoundrel by Beth Revis, fantastic book. She talks about how Han is some of these people think these are cute, cuddly creatures. No, these things are dangerous. And if you've ever played an Ewok hunt in Battlefront, these things are dangerous. And so I want your guys' opinion on Ewoks. I do genuinely love Ewoks. I love what Warwick brings to Wicket and all of those things. So tell me, Luke, I'll throw it to you first. General impression on Ewoks, and just give me your thoughts. Yeah.
I can definitely echo your 5-year-old me loved Ewoks, and I don't understand how anyone didn't like them, because 27-year-old me still loves Ewoks. I think my favorite, something that just genuinely gets a chuckle out of me, is there's an Ewok that steals a speeder bike, right? Or gets on one and
right.
And it's hilarious.
It might be Wicked, actually.
Okay,
I think it's Wicked that steals it.
It might be. I'm not sure.
Maybe not.
Call me a fake fan, but it's so funny that he's on this machine he's probably never seen before, and just there's no caution. He's just full go,
and his legs are flying in the air as it's going.
And he's laughing the whole time. It's laughing the whole time.
Yeah, and behind the scenes stuff, it's really cool how Warwick Davis, he had such a good relationship with Carrie Fisher, and how he was way overheated in that suit, and Carrie was very adamant about bringing him milk and cookies and anything he needed to get him through the scenes. That's just another way that this franchise is so heartwarming even behind the scenes.
That's awesome. Jay, Ewoks.
You know what's
to
funny?
Befriend them? Do you want to join an Ewok clan?
So
are you a part of the tribe yet?
In Return of the Jedi, though, in the big battle on Endor, there's this part in the battle where you see the Empire kind of gaining the advantage for a little bit, and then John Williams's score kind of hits a more minor notes. And you see even the ATSTs shooting down some of the Ewoks.
Right.
There's a scene, and I wonder if you guys, maybe a few people even in the chat, know about this scene, but it caused me a lot of childhood trauma. Do you guys know about this scene?
You're talking about when he shoots those Ewoks, and the one gets up to run, and he he touches his friend, and his friend doesn't get up, and he just collapses. That literally breaks my heart. It really does.
That scene was a source of real childhood trauma. I'll never forget that scene.
It makes me sad to this day just thinking about it. I mean, I remember watching that, and I'm like, no, the best buddies aren't gonna ride off into the forest together.
You literally,
it's so sad.
They literally showed these cuddly teddy bears getting annihilated.
As George Lucas said, here's these cute cuddly things. This is so classic. He's these cute cuddly teddy bears, and it's comical in the sense of these are going to be the things that destroy, as Sidious, as the Emperor said, one of my finest legions of troops. And the finest legions of troops are taking him out by just a band of Ewoks. But then you're laughing because it's and then you're like, oh, I'm actually traumatized now because
there's this actual really
now the fact he's just blowing these things up in the air. He's just launching torpedoes into teddy bears.
And then and like like you as a kid, you're like you love these teddy bears and you don't want to see them die. But it's probably like one of the most like traumatizing scenes in any of like kids movie, quote unquote, right? So yeah, like for me, like that will always stick in my head when like I think about the Ewoks.
Yeah.
Last deal. Do you guys have any like merch or anything you really like from Return of the Jedi or Return of the Jedi theme? I think some of the best like fits or action figures and things in Star Wars have come from this. I pulled one of my favorites.
Yeah.
This is a Black Series one from a couple years ago that they launched with Leia, but not just like the new ones, but all of them. Like I love the indoor looks and some of the ways with the like the forest and everything. Do you guys have any action figures that you particularly are fond of? Let me see if I'll grab one of mine too. Because I got them. I got them.
We know you got them. They're hanging up on your wall.
See this one too? Like,
Yeah.
Just from Leia's, outfit as like the bounty hunter and everything. Like I love that was just cool too. And I know there's, I got some action figures hanging up there. I'm trying to look.
I mean,
there's a few Return of the Jedi ones. Yes.
I don't have any like particular like Return of the Jedi figures, but if we're talking like outfits, I think like to me, everyone, this is made the rounds on YouTube and everything, but Luke's outfit, it's the all black. The idea of like, oh, is he gonna be part of the dark side now? Right. And then it's like the little reveal of on the inside where it's white, and then it's showing no, he was still a Jedi deep down all along. And I just love that look where it looks like like a classic, like almost like an ascot, like a royal like ascot, like like that they would wear in like the 1700s. And I just think that's such a cool look. So
last thing on this movie before we go, and it's been talked about before. It is so hilarious that Yoda is literally like, all right, Luke, walk me to my bed. And he's like literally dying. And he's just about to be like, oh yeah, by the way, there is another Skywalker. Okay, peace. Then she's like, I'm out. He's just like, I'm done. Here, I'm going to drop this bomb on you. But like you Skywalkers have given me so much anxiety and stress over the last like 30 years. I'm like done.
I'm not going to
out of here. And then then he just pops in at the end, all smiles, when Luke's looking on at Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda and everything at the end. But that's so funny. I do love the way this one ends. Like it's cheesy, but give me the Yub Nub celebration with everyone going crazy, giving hugs and all that. Yes, Jay.
So controversial opinion. I like the actual like special edition version better than Yub Nub. I actually like that soundtrack better than
Yub Nub forever.
Like, look, Yub Nub is fun, but for like an actual like end of the series like celebration, I feel like the special edition on the DVD,
right?
Like that version, I actually do think that that's more appropriate, and I actually like that version better. Yub Nub is cool and it's fun.
Yeah,
but it's corny and cheesy in my opinion. Anyways,
but it is corny and cheesy. But I don't know. For me, it just fits. They're literally celebrating the fall of the Empire in like a hut with a bunch of teddy bears. Like it just and they're like hitting the drums. I don't know. It does fit. It does fit. Any final thoughts on Return? We could talk about 3PO getting floated. There's so many great moments from that movie. It's such a good movie. Ultimately,
Jabba.
like. Oh, and then Han's face when, Leia tells him, he's like, he's my brother. And he's like, oh, wait. It's just the number of thoughts that are going through his mind in that particular moment. And something I do love about the legacy of Return of the Jedi is we know moving forward in different novels and such that, Luke obviously reconciled who his father was. And Leia never did. She always resented and hated her father pretty much. And that was something she could never overcome. And rightfully so. The man tortured her as a child. Like, let's be clear. But any final thoughts on Return of the Jedi before we wrap up the show this week? No?
It's just my favorite. It's my favorite movie because it's so insane how quickly it moves. Because you're on Tatooine, you're on Endor, you're on Dagobah, and Death Star 2. I love that like there's so many places you travel to. Feels like I really went on the adventure with them, and I think that's what's most meaningful to me. I feel like I was there.
Yeah,
in the
that's
Falcon.
a good point. It does actually go very quickly when you're watching
It's quick. So I think that's maybe why it's so fun for me.
Sure.
I always say, and then forgive me, but like when something really big happens, I either give it a big Yahoo or I give it a big, like, like Lando, whenever after he helps blow up the Death Star, they get out of there just in time. Like, let's go. So, what a wonderful episode this was. I must say, this was a delight. We, covered a lot of ground today. A lot of fun was happened. And I got to mention Lee Charles. It's like perfect day. Even though Jay did try to kill off Vernesh Rowe for us before the show happened. Like, this man, I think, honestly, Jay, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I think sometimes what you do is you're like, what is Tyler's most beloved character this week? I am going to come for that character with a knife in my hand.
It's not my fault that you pick bad characters. Like,
whoa, okay, all right. So make sure you guys do not, no matter what you do this week, do not check out Good Games YouTube channel by Jay. Do not go like and subscribe, no matter what you do. No matter what Jay tells you here in a moment about his YouTube channel, Jay.
Thank you for bringing us up. Good Game Studios is my YouTube gaming channel that I do, and I have a new video coming out tomorrow, talking about what is actually more important in a video game. Is it the gameplay or the story? So gameplay going to be like combat, going to be the decisions you make, or is it the characters and the writing? So feel free to check that out. That should be coming up tomorrow. And I'm really excited for that.
And the answer to that is whichever game does not make me have to solve puzzles that take me way too long. That's the answer. I hate Fallen Order for making me have to solve those puzzles that I went to YouTube to solve because I got tired of force pushing a ball around for 10 minutes. Because I'm an idiot that doesn't know how video games work, apparently. Jay, you got anything for Newsnet you want to, drop real quick?
I have been working on some of the comic reviews, including Saber for Hire. Just did that one, yep. And then also did right? High Republic Adventures. Yes, thank you for reminding me. So I just did those, those are some of the stuff that you can look forward to from me on the website.
So thank you, Jay. Always check out Star Wars Newsnet for everything Star Wars. My Temptation of the Force review should drop tomorrow. I will be honest, guys. I have written a lot of book reviews at this point for Star Wars Newsnet. A lot of book reviews, a lot of comic reviews. I have only written one review in the last 4 years that I am as passionate about as I am this one. Like I can say that Cataclysm, I was extremely passionate about. On Princess and the Scoundrel, I was excited for just because of the legacy of Leia. I thought that was great in this book. But in terms of just the book itself, the story itself, I am really excited for you guys to read this. I really tried my best to give you as much as I could about where these characters are and where they're going to go without giving away any spoilers pretty much at all. I really stay spoiler free in this. And I really dive in. It's a 10 out of 10 rating for me. I gave it 10 out of 10. And like you guys know, I don't just hand out 10s in Star Wars. That's one thing I love about us. We're not afraid to drop the rating down. And so thank you for the advanced copy to Disney Publishing and everything. But in Tessa Grattan, you are amazing. I cannot wait to hear more about what came from this book. A couple of quick plugs as well for the site. Go read Miguel's Sunday piece, A Galaxy Far, Far Away. He talks a lot about George Lucas's comments at Film Festival this last week when he received this honorary award. I thought a lot of that was really interesting. We're going to have probably do a short mini episode for that. We're taking care of some editing things this weekend and getting back on track. So I know we have a few timeline shows to catch up on and a few other chats to upload. Those are coming, I promise. I know I've said that, we're on the move. I got back from vacation. It's all happening probably this week, next week. So be on the lookout for that. Also, our very own Josh is putting out, I believe this is going to drop tomorrow as well, another character spotlight of the week. We're basically going through, it's like Josh's series where he's going through kind of like B tier and below characters in Star Wars and getting like a synopsis of their journey and like everything that, you know, happens to them like really, you know, quickly. So almost like and you can get that in a video, but he does it in like a much more detailed way, which I really appreciate. And tomorrow is Vernestra Rose character spotlight, Jay. So I took a look at it. He asked me to look at it a little bit because he's like, Tyler, I know you love Vern, so can you just pop in? And so I added like a few things just from the last few like books that she popped in, but go read it. Josh did a phenomenal job giving you everything you need to know about Vernestra Rose before this. Emmy Wilson, thank you for the shout out for the timeline shows. We'll be back. There's literally 3 timeline shows recorded that are just waiting to finish some editing stuff, and then we'll get it out there. And then we're going to get started on some brand new stuff with the timeline shows and some new conversations, which Luke is actually going to be joining me for the timeline show starting very soon, which will be exciting. We're really excited for the future of that. So I just wanted to plug those quick things in Star Wars. We also had a Jango Fett 3 comic review that came out today on the site. So go ahead and check that out as well. Next week, The Acolyte. It's happening. It's real.
Let's go.
It's going to be incredible. Like, for better or worse, this journey is going to be incredible. I think we're all excited. Cannot wait to be back here next Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time to talk everything Acolyte. Jay, thanks for hopping on as always. Luke, thank you for being willing to hop on last minute today and probably have, you know, the gang all back together next week, I'd imagine. And stay tuned for future stuff. Luke, any final words from you before we get out of here?
Nothing too earth shattering. Thank you, MB Wilson, for loving the timeline show. I hope I can, keep up expectations there as well. Hope I can perform.
I'm sure it will be just fine. So for Light and Life, everyone, may the force be with you. We are all the Republic.